Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, On the Job, Labor and Politics in Boston. This episode, we're excited to welcome Senator Ed Markey to come in and talk about clean energy, offshore wind, solar, battery storage, baseload power, and the lack thereof that's under assault from the Trump administration. Ed's always been a great advocate for the IBEW. He supports unions and building trades jobs in this sector, and we're excited to have Ed join us here on the job. Senator, I told my dad that you were coming in, and if he wasn't in Florida, he would have been here to come say hello and finish you guys' conversation from the night of the 125th anniversary party.
Your father is like bionic. The man is eternal. The guy he's made out of some kind of super material from Krypton that was brought down here to Earth, and he's living too. Yeah. He's like at the cutting edge of enjoying life. And so where is he today?
So they have a place in Florida.
Beautiful.
So they're down in Naples, Florida.
Thank God for the IBEW.
Thank God for the IBEW.
103.
Amen to that. Yes.
So so you're 3 generations in.
I'm the third. My two kids are the fourth.
Right.
Yep. And that's really the family story. That's the story of the IBEW. It's legacy and generations, and now we're making new generations for people that never were part of the IBEW now. Now we're seeing fathers and sons and mothers and daughters from the city of Boston and all over getting introduced to the IBEW and sharing it with their families. It's amazing.
Yeah, but it's good to have the founding father still be, because you're genetically hardwired to be just like him. Yeah. You can just see it when I'm talking to him.
He doesn't have
I know, but I mean, the insides, maybe not the outsides, but the insides.
He attributes it, I think, to he eats healthy. He works out. Him and my mom got a great relationship, and they got a really, really good life together. And he's been retired 20 years from the IBEW. So
they're out of central casting. It's just amazing, And I'm not sure that Florida makes them any more robust than they were up here, but they're like poster children for how you live life well, huh?
Yeah, well, you're not doing so bad yourself there, Senator.
No, I do. Yeah, I'm doing well, but he's got, and in what year did his father start in the union?
I think my grandfather was initiated in around 47.
Yeah.
Yep. A year before my dad was born, I think my grandfather started, and it's been passed down in the family ever since. We've been very, very, very fortunate as a family to be in the IBEW. My parents live in Falmouth, and they go back and forth in the winter months as snowbirds down to Florida to get out of this crazy weather,
And, at your 125th anniversary party, which was like bigger than the Oscars, okay, and better entertainment, all of it. When you were up there, I just kept looking over at your father and mother as they were looking up, and they were just transfixed in looking at you, I mean, with great pride, but also, wow, we did a good job here. He's gone way beyond anything that we
our
would have
expectations. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I just mean that incredible event.
Yeah.
I mean, you took over,
Yeah, they're proud of all that.
How many people were there that night?
About 6,000.
Yeah, 6,000 people at a dinner, ladies and gentlemen.
Sit-down
dinner.
At a
sit-down dinner. The logistical time, energy study that had to be, put into place in order to have a 6,000 person sit-down dinner is beyond anything that's remotely achievable. Anyway, I could see in your mother and father's eyes as they were scanning this event how proud they were of you.
Yeah. I got to ask you. So I talk to my father all the time. How do you keep your youthful way and your energy? You crisscross the state. You're back and forth from Boston down to D.C. and back, and you get more energy than I have. How do you do it?
I don't want to underestimate, like you, just a genetic code that we inherit from my father and my mother, the same as you. And my father would always say, Eddie, there's no known example of hard work ever killing anyone. Get up, get out of bed, go to work.
That's right.
So, and he drove a truck, and he would say to me, Eddie, like a milkman, you got to deliver every day. There's no days off. You just have to go and do it. So I think to a certain extent, it's part of kind of a work ethic that was instilled in me at the kitchen table. And my father, even when I was 15, he just thought it would be good for me to get a job in a supermarket.
Sure.
Because I started when I was 15 in the supermarket. So it's good for you to be able to.
We all started the supermarket. I worked at Market Basket.
Yeah,
in high school,
so it was kind of a work ethic that he wanted to build into me. Now, my mother wanted me to study Latin and calculus at the kitchen table, and then my father would just say, "But Eddie, I got to build some common sense into you too. That Latin is going to help you at all out on the streets." Okay, so my father was a big part of this work ethic, and as my mother would say, because he had to leave for work at 5 every morning, and my mother would just say, "Eddie, you're never going to work as hard as your father. That's he's just a very hard worker." And then my father would say, "Eddie, you're never going to be as smart as your mother. She can do Latin and calculus." And she was right. They were both right. I'm not, but I try to do my best in the combination from them. And then I just I try to deliver every day. And I enjoy the work because there's a certain, psychic income that you can derive from just helping people. And I enjoy it. I enjoy that work. And I get, at the end of the day, an enormous amount of kind of satisfaction out of how many people in that day I was able to help, and then the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And it doesn't make you rich, but it does give you something that kind of drives me and gives me a motivation to get up the next day. And to have a Senate seat, to be honest with you, from Massachusetts, and have a father be a truck driver. I mean, there's no one like me in Massachusetts history, in terms of my background being a United States Senator. It's an extra motivation. Although I will say this to you, that I had never been to Washington when I was elected to Congress. I had never been there. So my first day down there will be to get sworn in as a congressman. And we're in the kitchen in Malden. And my father said to me, "Eddie, your mother and father, your mother and I, we're very proud of you. You've done fine work. But I just want you to remember this, Eddie. You're only one day away from completely screwing up. And I just want you to remember that. You got to work hard, be careful, just don't get full of yourself, okay? Go out there and do the job, which is other families, not our family, okay? You have to help other families." So to a certain extent, he just continues to motivate me and think that way.
Yeah, my dad and my grandfather, I mean, my dad's my hero. He's, the hardest working guy ever. And he was never drawn to politics. I'm not sure how I found my way into local union politics, this union politics. I'm not sure how I found my way, but I'm just really glad that a little piece of his hard work ethic rubbed off on me. And I feel the same way about you. There's nothing like representing people, whether it's a local union level or you do it across the Commonwealth, across the country as a United States Senator. There is something to be said about helping people. Your job is to help people. That's what my dad told me. Hey, you're at a big job now, and your job is to help people. And I never forgot that. I think about it every day when my feet hit the floor.
Yeah, when I was in Catholic school, grammar school, they were always asking, "Do you have a vocation to be a priest? Do you have a vocation to be a priest?" And then, as an altar boy, when you have to leave the house at 5 in the morning to go to serve the 6 a.m. Mass, I would say, "Yes, I do," but in my mind, I was going, "No, I don't. I'm not doing this." But the beauty of politics, the beauty of union leadership, is you can do the same thing. Right. You can just help people all day long without having to join some religious order. So I think that was, for me, a way of saying, no, I want to do what you say is important, to serve people, to almost have the Sermon on the Mount be a part of your life. Blessed are the poor, blessed are the elderly, blessed are the sick, blessed are those in need. And that's what a union leader or a senator gets to do, to work on the programs that help all those people who need help the most.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like I said, to see your energy, you've been in Congress and the Senate for a long time, and you still got the energy I think you had from day one, and you're still delivering for the people of Massachusetts, and there's something very admirable about that, and thank you for your service. But what do you make as a United States Senator, and you see more than we do? I get clips of it at 6 o'clock at night, or on the phone, and some of the news, the chaos that's kind of going on in this country. You must come back to Massachusetts and say, "Thank God that I'm from Massachusetts," because I do it every day.
Yeah, we're only 2% of America. We're not an ordinary 2%. We're the best educated. We're the healthiest. We're the wealthiest. And we have other states that look at us like we're some kind of communist, regime up here.
Right.
When all we say is, no, we actually just believe in sharing a little bit more with to provide for the healthcare and the education of the kids coming up, and we're willing to spend money to accomplish that goal. But then we get the long-term payoff in terms of how well qualified they are to enter the workforce as well. So it's actually a business plan that we have for Massachusetts. And so as President Trump targets clean energy projects, targets the National Institutes of Health grants that we receive, targets all of the educational programs that are central to our well-being, he's also targeting all of those projects that now will never happen, that would have employed electricians, that would have employed building trades, kind of skilled workers in our country and in our state. So to a certain extent, when I get up every day, I grew up in Malden, I still live in Malden. Trump is just bringing out the Malden in me because he's just really attacking hardworking union families.
That's right.
And so for me, I get motivated by that. And Trump has a special place in his targeting for Massachusetts. There's no question about it.
Yep.
But we're going to win. We're knocked down, but we're not going to get knocked out.
Right.
We're going to get up. We're going to fight. We're going to win. He's trying to kill offshore wind projects, but we're going to court. We're winning.
Yep.
Vineyard Wind is a good example of that, where no matter how hard he tries to kill our future, we're not going to allow it to happen. And so for me, I look at him and hey, bottom line is he was a developer. And you know how he viewed his subcontractors, his workers, okay? He'd do anything he could just to tip them upside down and shake money out of their pockets, right? It's all about him. Yeah. So we know who he is because you've had to deal with guys like that, right?
Yeah.
So I just see him as representative of an entire class of millionaires and billionaires who just don't have it in their personality to really be respectful of working people. If you kick them in the heart, you're going to break your toe. And my job, I see, is just to stand up for those working people who are going to be harmed if they don't have someone on their side in the ring, down in Washington, on the Senate floor, fighting for them every day.
Yeah, he's that out-of-town developer that comes in town, just thinks about money, doesn't care about who he runs over to get where he has to go or what he needs. But you mentioned NIH funding. You mentioned research. Obviously, the hospitals and the healthcare system and the university system in Massachusetts is the number one in the country. You just mentioned it. Guys like Teddy Kennedy, guys like Ed Markey fought for decades and decades to bring NIH funding to Massachusetts and to Greater Boston. And folks at Local 103, we built this local by building hospitals and by building the college system here in Massachusetts. That's how this local was built. We're an 8,000-man local, 8,000-person local, and it was built on that money that was brought in to Massachusetts, that research funding, the hospitals, the healthcare stuff.
We're only 2% of America, but we get 10% of NIH funding.
Yeah.
We get 10% of National Science Foundation funding. We get 10% pretty much anything that has to do with research. And then they need buildings to work in.
Right.
And then when they get another little idea, somebody spins off and says, well, I need my own little 5,000 square foot place now as I start up with my little spin-off idea.
We build those buildings.
All of that is really who we are.
That's right.
There was no Kendall Square. It was vacant.
Right.
Mass General had a small footprint 50 years ago. Now it just continues to build and to build. And the same thing is true for the other hospitals.
Yep.
The same thing is true for all of this infrastructure that we now think of as the new Boston.
Right.
But it was all built upon this federal funding stream that came in that then said we need more electricians and carpenters and building trades, people all across the board. So that's why we have to fight and win in court, whether it be offshore wind, it be NIH grants, it be all of it, because it is our business plan.
Yeah.
And it then results in trained, skilled workers having to build the workplaces for the scientists, for the technicians that then call Boston home.
That's what we've been building. And now we look ahead to the next 50 or 100 years. It's solar and it's offshore wind. That's the stuff we aspire to build, right? Let's build it all. And someone's in our way and they're trying to kill every single project. And
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about what Vineyard Wind meant for 103 in terms of the number of electricians that you have working on that one project.
The IBEW,
How many do you have out there on that?
So I think it cycled through that job. That's the Brockton Local 223 was building Vineyard Wind. It's our sister local. We intermingle. We're one of the same, just two different separate local unions by geography. But that, I think they cycled 300 electricians through that project.
300.
Yep. And now we're talking about the offshore wind project in Salem that's going to come off of Salem in that laydown area that's right in downtown Salem on the wharf there. That was a project labor agreement. That was going to be a setup yard that they're going to build the turbines there and then put them on a barge and ship them out to sea. That was all guaranteed union work, guaranteed local 103 work.
How many more electricians would that have
Hundreds,
been?
another hundreds.
Hundreds
More.
Right.
Hundreds more.
So that's the future.
Yep.
And that's why I work so hard in the Inflation Reduction Act, 2022, working with you, getting advice from you on it. And in that bill, I was able to build $10 billion for the manufacture of offshore wind component parts. $10 billion tax incentives to build all those component parts for offshore wind right here.
Yep.
And the tax break to generate offshore wind. We were able to build that in. I had built that in 1999, 2019, 2020, into legislation as well. So all of that was a plan, and it was a plan coordinated with 103, coordinated with the building trades, to look at how we reinvent the energy infrastructure of the 21st century. And all of that is now under assault. It was a plan. And I actually wrote an op-ed with Frank Callahan, who's the head of the building trades here in Massachusetts, where we called it the single greatest destruction of blue-collar jobs in America's history. 750,000 jobs are in jeopardy if the IRA doesn't stay in place. And again, even for one union, ultimately it's thousands of jobs just out of this union, that are put in jeopardy. So that's why I fight on the Senate floor to protect it. That's why we're taking them to court, and we're winning in court to keep the projects continuing, because that's what our future is, not just in Massachusetts, but across the whole country. It's to look at this building trades future for where the jobs are going to come from, what the energy sources are going to be. And here you've got solar, you've got wind here in your great headquarters that makes you kind of the cutting edge leader in looking at what the future should look like, but also being the physical manifestation of it, saying to kids, apprentices, this is the future, and we want to invest in you. And we just can't allow a would-be dictator, king, developer, contractor be selling out those kids and their futures, including your own kids that are in the union.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bull in a china shop, and he comes in and hacks and slashes and gets rid of everything. But the good part is he's just a bull in a china shop, and he can't articulate an argument in court that says why what he's doing makes sense, because it doesn't, and that's why he keeps losing. But you mentioned stuff that we do here. We just put a new tower in, a new wind tower. Our other one was 20 years old. We just replaced it with a brand new one. And we're also, next to it, we got a grant from a lot of the hard work that you do to deliver money to Massachusetts to build a training tower so we can teach our apprentices how to work on a wind turbine, to climb the inside of a wind turbine and to work on one and to wire one. So we're doing that great work that we're so proud of. And I just don't understand, like with the killing the wind, killing the solar, and you look at the price of electricity in Massachusetts, it's going up and up and up. And to kill, sources of power that can help bring prices down is just asinine. I just don't understand it, and we're all feeling because of it.
Yeah, there was a 13% increase in electricity costs last year, 2025.
Yeah.
And then simultaneously, they're killing the offshore wind.
Right.
The first project, Vineyard Wind, which is 800 megawatts of electricity. So for anyone listening, the Pilgrim nuclear power plant was 600 megawatts. Vineyard Wind is 800 megawatts of electricity. And all we need to do is just have a long extension cord, bring it in, plug it in to Massachusetts, and there would be 300, 400,000 homes that would be able to benefit from that electricity. And then the next project after that, and after that, and after that, union workers building the electric generating power and the new electric grid, which we're going to need, and the charging stations we're going to need here, all electricians to move to that future. So it's under assault, but you can't really hold back the future. You can slow it down a little bit maybe, but there's an inevitable direction that our country has to head for energy. And I actually remember, this is maybe 3 years ago, where with Frank Callahan, the head of the building trades here in Massachusetts, I had to get on the phone with the president of the Vineyard Wind company in Europe. And it was, how many American workers are we going to have on the project? And the CEO was saying, well, Americans really don't know how to do this. And so my argument is, well, they're not going to know how to do it unless they get total training now from day one, so that then they can train other Americans in the future, because we don't need you.
Doing it. We're training.
Yeah, we don't need Europeans to come in and do it. We just need you to train us, and then we'll be able to do it ourselves. And so that's now kind of built in, to your apprentice program.
Yeah.
So can you just talk a little bit about that, the apprentice program, as it's evolved over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of how you focus them upon that?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably 25 years ago that we recognized the inevitability of a transfer in power, and where we need all sources in wind and solar are the newest and the cheapest forms of how to build and create energy. We recognized that, and we developed not just to train it in our schools, but to live by it by installing it here on our campus. We have solar on all our buildings. We have an ice bear system out back that helps cool air when it's hot summer days. We have the lighting, all the lighting in the parking lot is all independent from the grid. It has solar panels and wind turbines on the top of it that powers a battery bank in the base of all those lights and keeps the lights on at night in our parking lot. And you see the wind turbine out there. We just replaced and remodeled our wind turbine. And, we're not quite net zero because of all the heat and electricity we consume, but that's our goal, is to get down to net zero here at Local 103. And then, you live by it and you teach it. And now our apprentices are coming through our program, and that's what they're getting trained to do among every other electrical task.
Yeah, and you're making this program very diverse as well.
Of course.
Women, minorities.
Yeah. We want the program. We want our membership to look like the communities that we serve. That's all.
Right.
No more, no less. We just want to reflect the city of Boston and the surrounding communities. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. So to the extent to which those renewable technologies are the future, the composition of your apprentice program looks like the future as well.
Yep.
And that's really what's in jeopardy. And
that's right.
And so, so Trump actually, he's bringing out the Malden in me every day that he's attacking the future. My father was a truck driver, and I'm a United States senator, so there's no one else like that, but I know I'm a beneficiary of opportunities that were presented to me that weren't presented to preceding generations, okay? I know that, and that's why I fight so hard for these programs. apprenticeship programs, PLAs,
Yep.
a prevailing wage, just to make sure
It's our bread and
that
butter. Those are our bread and butter issues. Yep.
just to make sure that those programs are there for this generation and the next as
That's right.
well.
Yep.
And it's all under assault
Yep.
at this point in time. So to the extent to which, Trump and his administration killed the Somerset project, which was going to be big in renewables. I had Frank Callahan, the head of the building trades, in my office with the CEO of the company to be negotiating the PLA to make sure that prevailing wages would be, a big part and a guaranteed part of that project. So I'm energized every day. It's the most energized I've ever been. That is to go back to your first question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trump gets me up every morning.
Right.
He gives me an agenda every single day because he's attacking the very fabric of who we should be. And ultimately, that comes down to the opportunities which working families should be able to enjoy. And you can't be looting all the education programs, all the healthcare programs, all the research programs, all the clean energy programs, and then looting that money to give tax breaks over to millionaires and billionaires. You're looting the future of young people in our country. And that's what ticks me off, because that's who I am, only who I am, because I'm not smarter than my mother. I don't work harder than my father. And definitely my grandparents, who just got off the boat from Ireland to live in Malden, they had to work 6 days a week. So I know I'm just a beneficiary of opportunities which I received. And the same thing is now, once again, the agenda for our country is we have to fight to make sure those opportunities are there for the next generation.
Right.
And so that's what motivates me every day.
Yeah. My family's got a similar story as your family, although my family came from Italy in the early part of the 20th century. And, 12 kids come over here and worked hard laying brick or mortar and working on some of the construction stuff, the lower wage type stuff at the time. And, all our stories are that story, the American story, right?
It's all the same story.
Yeah.
It's not the Trump story.
No.
He had to start off with only $200 million that his father gave him, right?
I know.
So that's his, that's a rags to riches story.
We reflect the American, the real, true American story. You
And
know what I mean?
it's what's under assault,
Yeah,
and
it
so so the Antonellises and the Markeys are absolutely products of a brilliant plan that was constructed mostly by unions in order to get us here today. Yeah. And my father was the president of a local union, and he had his finger chopped off when he was working in the factory, and he used to basically, with my brothers and I, just kind of make a joke about it and how he felt about that company and the boss who just told him, "See you on Monday at work, John." Okay, there was no OSHA. There were no protections.
Yeah.
Right. So all these protections which we have today have been accumulating over the years, and now there's a wholesale attack upon every single aspect of it.
Institution that we've built over the last 100 years, that working men and women like your family and my family have built in the last 100 years, is all at risk.
So how do your workers view this renewables future? What is the level of optimism that they have about their future because of this commitment that our country had been making to it?
Yeah, well, there was optimism, and now I think it's turned to angst because they're seeing real projects get canceled. Like, especially, the Vineyard Wind is kind of almost done. It's 80% there. Hopefully, we're going to get that thing done. But it's the ones that haven't started like that. Our folks were really looking forward to that Salem project. We have a lot of members that live from between here and Salem, Massachusetts, that were excited and counting the days when that project kicked off and they could go be part of a ribbon cutting or groundbreaking so they can have a job there and build the clean energy infrastructure that we need for the future, which is offshore wind. And they're anxious and they don't know where they're going to go to work. You know what I mean? When it comes to that type of stuff, those are good jobs that are off the table now, or until we get them restored, and it might be after Trump is gone. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. I went up there
Yeah,
You
I
know, a
remember,
little
yeah,
more
yeah.
than a year ago, we were
Yeah,
up
we're
there,
celebrating.
big ceremony, a Louisiana company
Yeah.
partnering with
Yep.
Massachusetts because they have experience with offshore drilling
Yeah.
of oil and gas,
Sure.
so they could bring that expertise up to Massachusetts for offshore wind. It's all totally doable. And notwithstanding the fact that it was Louisiana and Massachusetts, they still want to kill it.
Yeah.
Okay, which is just absolutely unconscionable. And
And
so,
even if it gets turned around in court in the next year or 6 months, there's still going to be some angst from the developer side to say, hey, well, it's only a matter of time before they try to kill it again.
yep.
So they're going to have a hard time wanting to invest their money into a project that may or may not happen. And I totally understand it because of all the uncertainty around what's been brought into from this administration on this sector.
So we know what really is happening, that in 2025, there were 50,000 new megawatts of solar installed in the United States. There was 5,000 new megawatts of wind installed in the United States. There was 10,000 new megawatts of battery storage technology built in the United States. In 2026, right now, because it still has some momentum going, there's going to be another 50,000 megawatts of solar installed. There's going to be 7,000 megawatts of wind. There's going to be 20,000 megawatts of battery storage capacity built. But then you can absolutely see the downward trajectory after that.
Right.
And that's really what their goal is. These wind and solar, they keep saying, well, they're really not cost effective, when in fact they're so cost effective that they're endangering some of the biggest contributors to Donald Trump. Yeah. That's really what it's all about. Although sometimes I think they want to take down all of the wind turbines off of our coast so they can bring up the aircraft carriers right off our coast to go and attack Greenland. I think that's really what their goal is, because otherwise it's inexplicable, because we can get a guaranteed price for that electricity that comes into Massachusetts. That's right. We can sign a 20-year, 30-year deal guaranteeing the price. Last year, natural gas prices in Massachusetts went up 30%. From October 2024 to October of 2025, natural gas prices went up for consumers 30%. Well, what's the answer? More competition, more energy, more electricity coming in, not building in this, guaranteed price spike that happens every year anyway.
At my house, we get the heat on all the time, right? My wife works from home a couple days a week. The kids are always in and out. So the gas bill this month was over $700. The electric bill was over $500.
Yep.
Right? We need relief, right? And I don't want, someone to write a check for me. We need competition to bring the prices down, or they're never going to come down, right? And some of the loudest voices for closing gas plants or closing nuclear plants are eerily silent these days when they're shutting down clean energy projects offshore or solar projects. Where are those loud voices screaming about baseload power, that you can't shut down a power source, you can't shut down a power source? And now they're shutting down all these new power sources, and crickets, hearing nothing about it.
Nothing.
It's very,
Although
very frustrating.
they're shedding crocodile tears about, can you see how high electricity and natural gas prices are going? Right. And we go, yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, we're feeling it.
But they're in some kind of witness protection program where, when we ask them to say, hey, how about all of the above?
Absolutely.
All the above, natural gas, nuclear. How about wind? How about solar? All of a sudden, they can't utter a single sound. Right. So it's a sad commentary upon them, and we get to the heart of their real agenda, which is not all of the above, but oil above all. Yeah. Okay, and they've said for years and years it's all of the above. Yep. Then when all of a sudden there's an explosion of new clean energy technologies that are creating thousands of new jobs. So Vineyard Wind, 800 megawatts. Then right behind it, there was another 800 megawatt project, and another 800 megawatt project, and another 800 megawatt project, and another one, and another one. So all of a sudden they go, we didn't mean that. Yeah. We meant just us. Right. What we do, that's the only thing that can be a part of the mix in the future. And so who pays the price? Consumers pay the price at home, paying their paying their bills. Small businesses pay that price. We become less competitive because of this dependence that we have upon high-priced energy, when there was a solution that was being installed by IBEW 103 workers off of our coastline that would capture the same wind that blew the Pilgrims to Massachusetts, the same winds that the whalers from New Bedford and Salem and Gloucester had used in order to have that incredible revolution, was now going to be captured by this generation of Massachusetts workers in order to provide electricity for the future. So it's again, it ticks me off, Lou. I mean, nothing ticks me off more than seeing all these thousands of jobs unnecessarily be put into jeopardy.
We installed 150 electric car chargers here in our parking lot because of the push for electric chargers, and now they pulled back subsidies and tax breaks for people that want to buy electric cars. And now the electric car industry has slowed down, not to a standstill, but slowed down significantly. And people complain about, the subsidies for wind, offshore wind, and for solar. I'm like, all energy is expensive. And nobody is subsidized more than the gas and oil industry. No one ever complained about the gas and oil industry getting checks written to them by the government in the form of tax breaks and others. It's crazy. It's just they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. And who's paying the price? The IBEW and workers and other building trades and the ratepayers. We're all getting screwed.
So there was a big story yesterday that the American auto industry now has to write off $50 billion worth of losses because of this new policy.
Yeah.
And that's $50 billion that would have otherwise been UAW workers making the vehicles, IBEW 103 workers installing charging stations, the installation of the generation of the renewable energy that was going to be fueling that revolution. But those American companies that are having to write off $50 billion, that's money that otherwise was going to be invested in the manufacture of these technologies, which were going to keep people at work. They were going to be good paying jobs. Most of them were union jobs. And they're all under assault because the oil industry wants to just keep us all addicted to putting gasoline in our tanks. When I drove around in your parking lot with your, this super vehicle that you drive around in, I was just afraid in the parking lot. We were going from 0 to 100, but you could feel the power of the vehicle. Talk a little bit about how far advanced in your mind this technology already is.
So I got a Ford F-150 Lightning, all electric. And all the guys, a whole fleet of vehicles here are all Ford Mustangs, all electric Ford Mustangs. And people think about electric cars, I think, from decades ago, and they think Prius, and maybe I don't want to drive a Prius because it's not cool. Driving an electric vehicle is cool as it comes. They are fun to drive. They're exciting to drive. You drove mine.
Yeah, incredible.
They are out the gate. They really got great pickup. They're fun to drive. And Americans want to drive them. They want to buy them and they want to drive them. And this government just made it harder for people that want to. Not everybody wants to drive an electric car. We get it. Just like everybody doesn't want to drive whatever they want to drive. They want to drive. So the people that want to drive electric cars, now they just made it harder for them to buy electric cars because why? Because the gas and oil industry.
Yeah. So what was happening is that you were starting to brag about it to your buddies, and your buddies were going, "Well, if Lou's, I'm going to start to take a look at it.
Yeah, drive it."
Right? Yeah, they want to drive it. So it's a little bit like what happened with the transition from black rotary dial phones, where everyone had to almost do a big circle to dial the number that is their home number to call home to their mother. And then we moved to flip phones,
right?
And then people said, well, that was the transition. And then, but are they really going to move to a smartphone?
Right.
Yeah. You know what? It took only 5 or 6 years, and it starts slow, but then it hits. Yep. Same thing is true with color TV, moving to a 50-inch screen, moving to a 65-inch screen. And today, you know, a 15-year-old kid thinks that they're constitutionally entitled to a 65-inch screen with their device in their lap simultaneously. So all of it happens over a 5, 6, 8-year period. And they could see how quickly this was moving. And they had to stop it. And then trying to demonize it as being a technology that really isn't that good, when in fact, wind, accompanied by battery storage, accompanied by all electric vehicles, was the future.
The Americans want their technology, especially younger Americans that are coming up. They want their technology. They want their smartphones. They want their devices and their tablets and such. And every one of those electric vehicles, they're all like smartphones surrounded by 4 wheels and a motor. I mean, they're so technologically advanced. They got computer screens of the whole dashboard. They're unbelievable. I mean, I used to like the Teslas. I thought they were a pretty sharp car until the guy that makes Tesla kind of went crazy and is trying to single-handedly destroy this country. So, but I know why Americans like the electric vehicles, because they are so technology forward. And China right now is kicking our ass because of the administration pulling back and trying to kill these technologies.
Yeah, we're only 5% of the world.
Right.
And what
China's like 80%.
What Trump is saying is, oh, China, you can have the other 95% of the world to market your wind, your solar, your all-electric vehicles, your battery storage technologies, your biotech breakthroughs. You can have the other. We just want our 5%. When what made America great after World War II was the world became our market. You know, we make stuff here. We're exporting the stuff around the world. So to the extent to which there's been a fundamental shift over the last year, it ultimately then hurts these workers. And the tariffs that he's imposing upon products that, you know, that come into our country, it's those tariffs are paid, those are taxes that are paid for by American taxpayers. And all of it is making America first in his mind, but it's really just making it America alone. We're not stronger. We're worse off. And this electric vehicle industry of the future, like you're saying, BYD, it's a phenomenal vehicle the Chinese are making. It's not like some kind of glorified go-kart or, you know, some little golf cart. You know, this thing is...
they're beautiful vehicles, fun to drive.
The president of Ford Motor told me a year ago that it's the best vehicle that he had ever driven in. So we should be afraid. And what he's trying to do is pretend that we're not in a global competition for us to make the breakthroughs that then manufacture the equipment that then is sold around the world. And it's going to come back to haunt young people in our country.
At this time 4 years ago, we were gearing up to compete with China in the EV market. We were getting ready to take on China head-to-head in the EV market. American companies we were investing in American companies to build electric vehicles right here, and they just came in and cut the head right off it, and now China's going to run away with it.
Right, and then he gets mad when Canada cuts a deal with China. Well, you said that you want to make Canada the 51st state. What do you think their reaction's going to be? You know, so he's setting up a very bad long-term prospect for American workers because he just doesn't understand, especially where young people want to go. It's technology. It's the vehicle is a computer on wheels. That's where kids want to go.
They'll end up buying the Chinese models, and because we don't have any models here in America, and then another loss for us.
He can keep them out, which is what he's going to do. He's going to try to keep them out. When, like you're saying, we should have had a plan to take them on. Right? And there is no plan any longer, and we're going to reap a whirlwind of harm for American workers 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now when they have products that are better than ours only because Trump took us off the playing field.
Another thing, you mentioned Canada and some of the tariffs. And, you know, as you know, most of the Northeast heat their homes with home heating oil. And we get a majority of our home heating oil from Canada. And there's this 10% tax, between 10 and 25% tariff or tax on home heating oil coming out of Canada. Another kick in the stomach from the administration when you're trying to heat your house in the coldest winter that we've had in the last 10 or 15 years.
I think in my 5th grade geography book, same as yours, same as every kid in Massachusetts, there's one chapter in our geography book in the 5th grade, and it just says, our friends, the Canadians. the longest unprotected border in the world.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they're our enemy.
Right.
All of a sudden, our number one trading partner for Massachusetts is Canada. And Trump declares war upon them.
Right.
And then in turn, they say, well, if that's how you're going to play the game,
Right.
you know, when the United States and Canada are in an all-star hockey game, we're going to be booing the United States at a hockey game, right?
Awful.
Which is absolutely antithetical to who we are, because we, growing up in Boston, we've been totally dependent upon Canadians playing for the Boston Bruins our whole lives.
Yeah,
we need Canadians here
Bobby
in
Orr
Boston.
was the greatest, right?
Bobby Orr from
Greatest Boston Bruin
from
in the
Bobby
history
Orr
of the
from
team.
Parry Sound in Canada. We even knew the names of the towns where these great
Right.
Bruins come from. So yeah, it's all kind of turning the world upside down, and ultimately it's just the next generation that gets harmed by these crazy policies.
Yeah. So we keep fighting. We keep standing up. That's what we got to keep doing. I know you're doing it.
Thank you, Lou.
Yeah, and we're behind you. You know, we really are, and we know you got our backs, and we got your back in this fight. I know it's we know the fight's going to continue for the next 3.5 years, and probably beyond if he gets away with what he was talking about doing election-wise. You know, we got our hands full, but we're ready for a fight. That's what we do here, right? We've been fighting for a long time in this part of the country. We're the original. You know, we took on the British 250 years ago. You know,
honestly,
we know how to do it. We know how to start a revolution.
The Minutemen and Minutewomen, they were taking on the most powerful military machine of all time. And they got knocked down, but they did not get knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. The abolitionist movement started right here. They were knocked down, not knocked out, got up, they fought, they won. Suffragette movement, knocked down, not knocked out, got up, they fought, they won. The civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr. went to school here along with Coretta Scott King at the New England Conservatory. They got knocked down. They were not knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. The universal health care movement, it started right here.
Right.
And it was labor in Massachusetts that was standing over Mitt Romney's shoulder when he signed a bill that created the model for the whole country. That all comes out of Massachusetts. And so 3 years ago, Lou, I asked you to come as my guest to the State of the Union address, and you sat up in the gallery. So we're coming up in a couple more weeks to President Trump's State of the Union.
Yeah.
So can you give us your State of the Union for organized labor, what you're thinking as Trump is about to give his State of the Union after 1 year in his second term?
You know, the State of the Union for labor is to get off our asses, to stand up and to fight back. Labor's always been in a fight. We never shied away from a fight. The country's in a fight right now, and labor's always the first ones to stand up. We need to stand up. We need to join allies with our friends. And just like that old poem, you know, they came for us and there was nobody left to stand up for me. It's kind of what's going on in this country right now. You know what I mean? Like we talked about the Italians and the Irish that came over here that were absolutely treated like shit. Then it was the Jews and the Poles that were absolutely treated like shit, right? And they're doing that same thing they were doing 100 years ago, they're still doing to poor immigrants. It's not their fault. They want a better life. They're not stealing jobs from anybody, picking fruit and waiting tables. You know what I mean? And you know, labor's got to be in the fight. Labor has to be in the fight. I think labor is in the fight. I think they're starting to get it because they're finally starting to come for us. When you look at these jobs that are getting canceled, that is coming for us. They're canceling your jobs. That big tunnel project in New York and New Jersey, the offshore wind stuff up here, battery and alternative energy stuff across the country, they're coming for us. They're already coming for us. It's time to stand up. It's time to fight back.
Thank you, my friend. And thank you for having my back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
My friend. Thank you.